Okay, in Parshas Va'era, which we're going to read in Yitzhak Hashem this Shabbos, Moshe Rabbeinu is arguing with the Ribono Shel Olam, and it's like a battle back and forth. And we saw this already last Shabbos in Shmos, that every time HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, I want you to be the Redeemer of Israel, Moshe Rabbeinu comes up with an argument against it. I don't have the ability to speak, and Moshe Rabbeinu gets an answer from Hashem, Yisam Peli Adam, and so forth and so on. And then later on he says, let Aaron take it over. Why are you giving it to me? He's older than me, and so forth. But what we're missing is another piece of the puzzle. And that is the Vehem Lo Yaminu Bi, which means at one point, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Ribono Shel Olam, this is not going to go. They're not going to believe me. And Chazal go a step further, and they say, what was Moshe Rabbeinu's contention? He was wondering whether or not the Jews are worthy of being redeemed. He was actually challenging HaKadosh Baruch Hu on this issue. Do the people really deserve to be redeemed? And Moshe Rabbeinu apparently had lost faith in the people. And not only that, in Ruach HaKodesh, he saw Arba'im Shana Kut B'Dor that they would be coming over and over again with rebellions against me. And they're going to be sinning. Why redeem the people? They're not worthy of redemption. Now, what I want to cover tonight, and this is my agenda for tonight, my goal for tonight, is try to understand, on the one hand, the view of Moshe Rabbeinu, as he says, look, they don't deserve to be redeemed, they're not worthy. And at the same time, to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu's counter argument that, no, I'm going to take them out, you're going to redeem them. And Hashem really almost forces Moshe Rabbeinu to do that. Now, we'll see if you could maybe move up a little bit, and maybe we could close the door so that Charlie shouldn't feel that. Okay. I'll just move this a little bit. Okay.
We can move it close.
No, we're fine. All right. Now, in order to understand this, we want to take a look at Rabbi Nosson. Just a few words about who Rabbi Nosson was. He was the Talmud of Rabbi Nachman, and he was from Breslov, and he wrote, amongst many, many different works, the Likutei Halachos. We don't have all of it. I would say 8 volumes out of 12. The 4 volumes we don't have. They were lost, and no one could replace them. Only he could replace them, but he's not alive anymore. And his last name was Steinhertz, and his first name was Nosson. So in the Likutei Halachos, he asks a totally different question, which I want to share with you. And based on his answer, we're going to swing back to Moshe Rabbeinu and his argument with the Ribono Shel Olam about whether or not Hashem should redeem the people. Good? That's the structure of the schedule, and that's what we want to do. So we're looking here at Hilchos Ribis and the 5th chapter. It's a very long, complicated chapter. We're only going to pull out a little bit of part of this chapter. The last words of the Torah at the end of Dvarim are Li'enei Kol Yisrael. And Rashi tries to give us an insight. Li'enei Kol Yisrael, in the eyes of all of Israel. What happened in the eyes of all of Israel? And these are the last words of the Torah in which the Torah is praising Moshe Rabbeinu. How great he was, what he did for us. He took us out of Mitzrayim, and he gave us the Torah and everything else he did for us. And then it ends with Li'enei Kol Yisrael. So Rashi says, in the name of Chazal, this is a remes to, you won't believe it, Shvirat HaLuchot, to destroying the tablets, which was done Li'enei Kol Yisrael. When he came down from the mountain, he saw them worshiping the idol. And Rabbi Nosson wants to understand this. It's so strange. Moshe Rabbeinu destroys the luchos, And that's going to be one of the great praises of Moshe Rabbeinu in the last 3 words of the Torah. And he asks another kasha. He says that as soon as we end the Torah, what do we do next? We start the Torah from the beginning. So we really read the Torah as if it said, Li'edei kol Yisrael, Bereshis bara Elokim, and God created the earth. What's the connection between breaking the luchos and creating the earth? An unbelievable question. So just to summarize, we have 2 kashas. Number 1, why are we praising Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of his life, the last 3 words of the Torah, for destroying the luchos? And number 2, what connection does that have when we swing around to start the Torah again, Bereshis bara Elokim? Ad kan? Understood. So Rav Nosson says that the key to unlock this whole mystery and why Moshe Rabbeinu destroys the luchos and how that connects to the beginning of the Torah is to go back to Bereshis and study the Medrash. The Medrash wants to know, on the pasuk Nasa Adam, God says, "Let us make man," in the plural. I'll say why the plural, because God is conferring with the angels, with the Malach Yesharis, and he wants to know, are you in favor of this endeavor? Should we create man? Is man worthy of creation? And the Medrash describes how the Malachim divide up into 4 different groups, Arba Kitos, and one of the Kitos was the Malachim of Emes, of truth. Excellent. So they came in front of Ribono Shel Olam and says, man is full of shkarim. He's a liar. I know that you just had some sort of a case, so I don't know if somebody was a liar. I don't know. But man is full of liars. So you're going to create man? I represent Emes. Thumbs down. I don't want to create man. And the Medrash goes on, again, we're summarizing it, but God takes Emes and throws him into the ground. And the Medrash quotes a pasuk, Emes mi'eretz titzmach, that God had to defeat Emes, so to speak. So again, Rav Nosson is very perplexed. What's going on over here? The Malach has a good taina. He represents Emes. We believe that the Torah is Emes. Emes is the greatest midah, the greatest, in the Torah of Rav Nosson, there's nothing greater than Emes. Or maybe there is something greater than Emes. So why does Hashem take Emes and throw him down? And here's where Rav Nosson drops a bomb, as I call it, a breakthrough, a revolution, a mapecha she'ekavota. Says Rabbi Nosson, there's something above Emes, and that's called Emes LeAmiso. Like the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, that a dayan, a judge who's done Emes LeAmiso, he is on the highest level. Why does the Gemara say Emes LeAmiso? What is Emes LeAmiso? If it's Emes, it's Emes. If it's not Emes, it's Sheker. What's Emes LeAmiso? Says Rabbi Nosson, there's one Emes of the Malachim, and that's the Emes that allows for kitrug. How do we translate the word kitrug into English? That's a tough one. It's to attack someone and argue that he's not worthy, to find the negative, to condemn someone. That act of condemnation is called kitrug. So if you remember, the Malachim of Emes said, we're going to be makatreg against man because man is a shakran, and therefore we're going to condemn man. How are you going to create man? We represent Emes. And whenever you see Emes in the words, in the mouth of the Malachim, it's always going to be kitrug. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to go above Emes.
It's like criticism versus constructive criticism. I see your wife can ask you, like, do you look fat in this dress? You can criticize, so you can be constructive.
Constructive and do what? What do you tell her? Buy a different dress or tell her to lose
You
weight?
look like an angel.
You look like an angel.
Malch Emes.
Right. So there's a divine perspective, which is Emes LeAmiso, and it goes above the kitrug of the Malachim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the Malachim, not in so many words, but by implication, that you know what? I believe in man. I know that man is capable of doing great things, of overcoming the temptation for sheker. Man has the potential to reach the highest level. God sees and perceives in man something that the Malachim themselves can't perceive. So if you ask me, Al Pi Emes, should man be created? The answer is no. And the Malachim are correct about that. And that kitcher is acceptable. But why is man going to be created? Because of a different perspective of Emes LeAmiso, a greater divine perspective. And that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes Emes, that Malach, and he throws him into the ground and he says, you know what? There's a greater level of Emes. There's an Emes LeAmiso. And now we get back to Moshe Rabbeinu, who's being asked now to redeem the Jewish people. And Moshe represents the principle of Emes. But which Emes does Moshe Rabbeinu represent? He personifies the Emes of the Malachim. Not bad. Right? If I could say I'm on the level of Emes of a Malach, that's not terrible. I have a good confidence. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, you know what? We can't redeem the Jewish people. They're full of hate. They don't deserve to be redeemed. And Emes demands justice.
He was just fighting the angels to get that sword to begin with.
And that's going to be the whole idea of Moshe Rabbeinu at the time of the Chet HaEgel. Moshe Rabbeinu at the time of Chet HaEgel is going to finally learn the truth that there's a truth above truth, that there's a level of Emes LeAmiso. At the sneh, at the beginning of Moshe Rabbeinu's career, he's at the level of Emes of the Malachim, and he's a Makatre. And he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they don't deserve to be redeemed. And Al Pi Emes, he's right. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to force Moshe Rabbeinu to take upon himself the job of being the Moshiach Shel Yisrael, to redeem Israel, because Hashem sees a divine perspective of Emes LeAmiso. The Jewish people are capable. Never lose hope in a person.
My wife would love that. Yeah. That's why I can never win an argument with her, because her Emes is her Emes LeAmiso.
That's so true. Great. But Moshe Rabbeinu learns the lekach. So what does he do? He comes down the mountain. He sees Bnei Yisrael worshiping the Egel, the most severe avera that you could imagine, avodah zarah. And he takes the luchos and he smashes them. The luchos represent Emes. Moshe Rabbeinu is imitating whom? Who? Hashem, because Hashem took Emes, and what did he do with Emes? He threw him into the ground. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to do the same thing. He's going to take the luchos, which represent Emes, represent the Torah of Emes, and he's going to throw them into the ground. And he's going to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can't destroy the people. And the reason why you can't destroy them is because there's an Emes that goes above Emes. And that's the Emes LeAmiso. And finally, Moshe Rabbeinu is the champion of Emes LeAmiso. But it wasn't easy for Moshe to reach that level. Initially, with all the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, he was chosen by Hashem to be the Redeemer. He was not ready to learn about Emes LeAmiso. He was at the level of Emes, but he was still the Emes of the Malachim, and that was a Makatre, until finally he reaches the level of Emes LeAmiso. And a Dayan is apparently required to reach a higher level than Emes. You know, there are many stories about judges that, you know, they came to one conclusion based on the evidence, and then they said, no, there's something fishy over here. It doesn't, the pieces of the puzzle don't fall into place. There's another Emes above that. That's an Emes LeAmiso. And this is so typical of what Rabbeinu, you know, the Breslov of Rebby, Rabbi Nachman, was all about, that you should never give up on a person. Don't look at a person and say, well, you know, he's an evildoer, he's a rasha, he's gone, he's foregone, he's crossed all the levels and violated, he's passed the red line. No. We have to imitate Hashem. There's an Emes LeAmiso. And it occurred to my mind that maybe in our situation that we see today in the Milchama, and we're asking ourselves, how could it be? You know, the stories of greats, I mean, Chayalim, who did so much and put their lives on the line, and yet they fell. And it would seem that al pi emes, there's no justification for it. But there's something called emes lamito. There's a different perspective. We're living in times which I think go beyond just regular emes. And we don't always understand the answers, but we have to believe that this emes lamito is something greater. I just want to add one last piece that I got from Rabbi Nosson, not here, but elsewhere. Rabbi Nosson points out that we are learning the parashas of Golus Mitzrayim. What is Golus? And he asks the following question. The Torah in Parashas Shmos goes out of its way to point out that Yosef Haya b'Mitzrayim. We finished those parashas of Yosef. We're learning about the Golus Mitzrayim. Why the emphasis on Yosef? And he answers both these questions with one yesod. He says, what is Golus? Golus means atzvus, means sadness. When a person is in Golus, he feels he has no freedom. He's incarcerated. He's a slave. And therefore, he gets down. It's natural. It's atzvus. But Yosef was in Mitzrayim. Yosef represents the slave who never gives up hope. Yosef represents the slave who lives in a state of simcha, of an inner peace and happiness, knowing that it's Shem Hashem, Shogu B'fiv, that it's all part of a divine plan. And one thing that we learned from the Maisa Snez, Imo Anochi B'tzara, we have to be nosei bi'ol chavero. There are Jews who are hostages. I can't even imagine in my wildest dreams what they're going through. Can you?
This guy you never will.
What do you say?
Please God, we never will.
And we hear and this and that. It's just. So sometimes I feel guilty that I'm sleeping on my bed at night. You know, somebody is a hostage. He's in slavery. He has no freedom of movement. But somehow, and I don't know how we're going to do this, we need the Yosef in Mitzrayim. We need the Simcha of Yosef. And the faith and the Amunah that it's all part of an Emes Lamito. And that belief is going to project us into a state of Simcha to undermine Golus and Atzvus and believe that there are things that we can't understand, but they're all Tov. And that's why I think that Chazal always make a connection between Rabbi Akiva and Yosef, because Rabbi Akiva represents the philosophy of Kol Man D'Yovid Rachmana L'Tavo. So he wrote on maybe his will that we could be Zocher to see the freedom and the end of Golus, to see and experience the Simcha, to appreciate the Emes Lamito, never give up on any Jew, and to believe in the potential of every Jew. And in that sense, we're imitating HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're imitating Moshe Rabbeinu. We're going to take those luchos of Emes that are screaming a kitchering and give up on someone, and we're going to smash them and never give up.
Amen.
And in Mitzvah Hashem, we should be zocher to the Geula, to see the end of all the tzaros for Klal Yisrael, to see the freedom of the hostages. And we nosei bi'ol chavero, we feel the pain, and we're hoping for that simcha and that Yeshua of Emes Lamito b'meherav Yameinu.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
And